Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Is screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Fine. So we have started the module 4 with the macroprocessor, and we have seen in detail in the previous class about the definition of a macroprocessor, where that fits in, and three functions of it. Reflecting on the functions of macroprocessor, we have three functions basically for a macroprocessor, namely macro definition, macro invocation, and macro expansion. Macro definition is identified with a signature with the macro name and macro as a assembly directive, followed by formal parameters which are prefixed with ampersand. Later we have body of the macro, followed by end as an assembly directive which denotes the end of the macro definition. That completely called as a macro definition. Coming to macro invocation, so during the main program, if this macro is going to be called, or it can be called with the syntax that name of the macro followed by actual parameters without any ampersand, just number of actual parameters we are going to provide. And the last one is a macro expansion. As macros are known for expanding themselves with the body of the macro definition, whenever they have been called, the macro expansion talks about the actual body of the macro that gets embedded into the regular program, so that wherever there is a macro invocation or a macro call, the body of the macro will be reflecting. That is an idea behind the macro expansion. So macro definition, macro invocation, and macro expansion are the basic three functions of the macro processor. Now let us get into the next concept of macro processor, which is the macro processor algorithm and data structures. And macro processor algorithm and data structures is similar to the whatever the algorithms you have taken earlier, but here we divide rather the entire process into multiple sub programs or sub processes, so that it will be easy for us to understand how macros are going to be dealt. So before we go to the macro algorithm, let us look at the various data structures that are going to be used, or that are required rather, by the macro processor design. Coming to the macroprocessor data structures, we also have a two-pass macroprocessor like any assembler or loader so far. What we discuss now is based on the two-pass macroprocessor, which has pass 1 and pass 2. Why pass 1 and pass 2 we'll see later, but right now let us see the data structures that are required for the macroprocessor. There are three data structures by name: definition table, name table, argument table. So def tab, name tab, arg tab. These are the names like sim tab, op tab. We have three data structures here in the macroprocessor. Tables, definition table. Def tab stands for definition table. That, as name says, it is going to control the or have the information related to macroprocessor definition or macro definition. Name tab, that is going to contain the names of the macros along with the pointers for the definition of the macro body. Next, argument table, the actual arguments or parameters that we are passing during the macro call. These are the three tables what we are going to have as far as the macro processor is concerned. Let us look at the process or the visualization of these tables, so that you will get a clarity behind the need of these three. So roughly, we require three data structures for the macro processor: definition table, name table, argument table. So how they have been structured, let us see now. So definition table, as the name says, it is going to contain the macro body. What is the macro body? If you look at the macro definition has the structure, that is the name of the macro, followed by macro, which is a macro assembly directive, followed by formal parameters, followed by the content, that is the body of the macro, followed by end. So what you see between macro and end is nothing but the macro body or the actual macro content, the definition. That part is going to be used as far as the definition table is concerned. Then what is a name tab or name table? Name table, as name says, contains the names of the macros, like we have seen RD, BUFF, WR, BUFF, RD, REC, WR, REC. So whatever the name we have used in the macro definition, those names along with the 2 pointers. The first pointer is going to point to the beginning of the macro body, and last pointer will point to the last line of the macro body, so that when there is an expansion going to happen, only the contents between these 2 pointers will be copied verbatim while expansion of the program takes place. To facilitate that, we have a name table which contains the name of the macro followed by 2 pointers, one for the beginning of the macro body and the other one for the end of the macro body. And the last one is a argument table. As name says, argument, it is going to contain the actual arguments that are part of the program, that are part of the macro invocation. So that is the idea behind the argument table. So when the program, when the macro is getting expanded, these arguments, which are actual arguments, will be replacing the formal parameters. We have also seen in the previous examples that ampersand, ID and all will be replaced by the original or the actual parameters when the program or the macro gets expanded. To facilitate that, we require a argument table. Okay, so we have definition table, name table, argument table. So if you look at the structure for this is maybe like this. So definition table, if you observe here, it contains the actual code, that is the actual name of the macro and the followed by the corresponding formal parameters with end. So the name of the macro and the end will be 2 pointers that are required for a name table to identify the actual content behind the definition of a macro. And if you look at the left hand side of definition table, we have a name table which has the name of the macro followed by 2 pointers. The first pointer, if you observe here, is pointing to the beginning of the macro, and the second pointer is pointing to the end of the macro. The body of the macro is what we require while expanding. That is the reason why these 2 pointers will get exactly the body what is required for us. Next, if you observe definition table, definition is exactly the same as what we have used in the definition of a macro. But when it comes to the argument table contains the actual parameters which have been used in the function call. So that's what we are going to observe here. When you look at the definition table, probably a small change you can notice here. So the ampersand in DEV, ampersand buff ADR, ampersand REC LTH, which are formal parameters, they will be given some numbers. That is, INDEV is given number 1, first argument, first number, second argument, second number, third argument, third number. Like that, a sequential number will be provided to each formal parameter here, so that in the body of the macro, instead of using the name of the macro, name of the parameter, will be using only the number. So that means instead of INDEV, since it is the first parameter, probably you can see that the system has used the (1). That (1) is nothing but it is going to be pertaining to the first parameter. Similarly, (1), it pertains to the first parameter. You look at (2), it pertains to the second parameter. You look at the (3), it pertains to the third parameter. So that's how it is going to identify various formal parameters that we have provided with the macro definition or macro name. So we have RDBUFF, which is a macro here, whose formal parameters are ampersand INDEV, ampersand BUFADR, ampersand REC LTH. So when it gets expanded, these things will be replaced by correspondingly, that is F1, buffer, and length. So these 3 are the actual parameters. They come in place of that. But to facilitate that, instead of having INDEV, buffer address, REC LTH, INDEV is number 1, buffer address is number 2, and REC LTH is number 3. So just as a convention, instead of repeating the same names again and again, a numbers like a reference number, if you remember, in loaders also we have used reference numbers. And like that, some numbering system is used. and that numbering system internally is going to be question mark 1. So question mark 1 means it is a first formal parameter. Question mark 1 again first formal parameter. Question mark 2 second formal parameter. Question mark 3 third formal parameter. This is only a convenience purpose. In the definition table, the names of the parameters have been replaced by the question mark. That is the idea. Okay, so this is how the data structures for microprocessor are considered. One is the definition table, other one is the name table, and third one is the argument table. Is it clear? Any confusion, doubts here as far as the data structures are concerned? I have some answers. Any doubts? Fine. Now, I have a question for you. Probably you should let me know. So let us take with this a program. We have taken the previous program actually. If you observe, we have taken the same program yesterday. We have RDBUFF as one macro, WRBFF another macro. Now the question is, I have RDBUFF called once, WRBFF called again, and WRBFF called second time. So my RDBFF is called once, whereas WRBFF is called twice. Now let me know what will happen to the arg table. So what is arg table? Arg table is the one which is going to contain the actual parameters. So for example, when I call RDBUFF in the flow of the program, F1 buffer length. Probably you might have observed that in the diagram as well. So F1 buffer length, they have been used because it is a first call. Now, again, what am I calling now? I'm calling WRBUFF. What does it contain? 05 buffer length. Now, let me know what happens to the contents of arg table now. First time it has stored when line number 190 was getting executed at a process, F1 buffer length are stored in the arg table that we have observed just now. Now in the flow of the program, when I reach the line number 210, I have called for a WRBUFF. When WRBUFF is called, you have three parameters, 05 buffer length. Now let me know what will happen to the contents of a argument table. Hope you got the question. So argument table is one which contains the real parameters. So every time when I call a function, what will happen? Will it be overwritten or will it be, or you expect, okay. Do you expect that to be overwritten or do you expect to be, what you call, to be retained? How you want your argument table to be designed? Because it is data structure, no? We can design the way we want. How do you want arg table to be designed? You want it to replace for every new call, or you want to just have an appending so that the system can store all the parameters. So my question is now, when RDBUFF is invoked at line number 190, that is the first macro, so no problem. So far argument table will be empty. So F1 buffer length will be stored. Once that is over, next at line number 210, WRBUFF is encountered. When that is encountered, you have new parameters by name 05 buffer length coming into system. So when those three parameters are there, what will happen to the previous parameters, that is F1 buffer length? Will they be replaced or will they be existing? How do you want the design to be taking place? That's the question. Let me have some answers for this. So meanwhile, let me take some attendance. Asta, Abhinav, Aishwarya,
Present, sir.
Amrish, Anu, Arbaz, Arjun,
Present, sir.
Ashok, Vinita, Bhargavi,
Present, sir.
Bhavisha, Chaitra,
Present, sir.
Chatterjee, Diksha, Deepika LG, Deepika
Present, sir.
MB,
Present, sir.
Murali Krishna,
Present, sir.
Gangubai,
Present, sir.
Guria Kumari,
Present, sir.
Harshit,
Present, sir.
Junjar,
Present, sir.
Kavya,
Present, sir.
Kishore, Lata, Manisha, Manjunath, Nayana, Nilanjan, Nishant.
Present, sir.
Okay. I will take the rest later. So, any answers for the question? What happens to the argument table?
Sir, Bhavisha present, sir.
Okay.
Sir, Abhinav present, sir.
Abhinav, okay. Yes. So what will happen to the argument table now? You want that to be existing or you want to be replacing? How do you want argument table to be designed? The previous two tables, no issue, because name table is like a symbol table, will contain the name of the macro, 2 pointers, all are independent. In the case of definition table, each definition I need to store, I can't overwrite, so each definition will be existing separately. But the choice is there at argument table. Once one call is over, once one macro is called, I do not require normally the previous call parameters, that is actual parameters. I can get rid of them. So when there is a call for a second macro in the course of the program execution, there is a possibility that I can rewrite or overwrite the existing formal parameters, sorry, actual parameters. Can that be done? Do you require to preserve the previous call parameters for any reason? Is it going to help? Because as a designer, you should think all this, no? Because you can't waste the memory. There is no point. Suppose if macro is called 10 times, every time you cannot keep loading the actual parameters in the system, it will eat up memory. So you have to take a call now as a designer, whether I should design arg table to contain the previous values or to replace or overwrite the previous values. That design call we have to take now. So I want you to tell me what, as a designer, what is that call you will be taking now? You want that to be replaced or you want that to be retained? May I have some answers? Any answers? I've also given you a hint. What is the need for having a previous macro invocations parameters in the system? Required or not? If required, why? If not, how? How do you manage without them? So you should, you're a designer now. You should think. You can't be silent. You should say whether yes or no. Everything has plus and minus. Every design has its own positive and negative things. You should validate why you want. You should also validate why you don't want. Is the question clear to you? Okay. If no answers, I am also helpless. Fine. Okay, next. So the reason why I have been asking that question is, now the next important concept is nested macros. So as we see nested loops or nested blocks in your high level language, there is a possibility that we have a nested macro, meaning that a macro can call another macro within itself. If that is the case, we have a concept called as a nested macro. So when normal macros are called independently, like in our example, RDBFF, we have called at line number 190, it has F1 buffer length as actual parameters. And once the process is over, when I go to line number 195, I don't require F1 buffer length because processing is already over. So when I'm at line number 210, WRBFF is called with values 0.5 buffer and length. When at that time, I can overwrite the existing values of previous macro call. So I have no harm. That means when standalone macros are called or invoked in the course of the program execution, we can replace the previous macro call or invocation actual parameters. We have no harm at all. So that is a design concept what we can consider. But when there is a nested macro is similar to recursion now. If it is a nested macro, then probably we will have a tough time. Meaning that in a nested macro, one macro is going to call another macro. So when I am calling when I have called the first macro, during the course of the program, another macro is called, meaning that the previous macro execution is still pending. Agree? Because in nested macro recursion, what will happen? The first call is not completed yet. Before the completion of the first call, second call is invoked. Second call is given to the function or a macro. If that is the case, like that, I can have any level of macros nested, maybe first level, second level, third level. In that case, probably we have a tough time. Then my design should be something different. Meaning that when I have A as my first macro, I have called A with 10 and 20. Next, while A is getting executed, A internally calls another macro called B, which is 30 and 40. So normal scenario, what would have happened? Since every macro is new, the previous macro value will be removed. That means 10 and 20, which are there in the macro now, will be replaced by 30 and 40. When there is a need for a nested macro, when I am dealing with a nested macro. When I'm dealing with a standalone macro, absolutely no problem. We can replace the existing contents of the argument table. But the problem comes when we are dealing with the nested macros. What is that problem? There is no problem with the name table. There is no problem with the definition table, but the problem comes with the argument table. What is that problem? The existing macro actual parameters will be replaced by the new parameters. So in our case, right now 10 and 20 are there. Now 10 and 20 will be replaced by 30 and 40. But in actually speaking, we should not replace 10 and 20 because the A macro, we have just given the name of macro as A, that A macro has not completed its execution. While it is getting executed, internally it has called another macro B. Similarly, while executing B, assume B calls another macro. So what happened now? A is a macro, A has B as a nested macro, B in turn has a C as a nested macro. So what will happen now? Until C is getting not executed, B cannot be executed. Until B is executed, I can't say A is executed. So for A and B to be executed first, C should be executed. Once C execution is over, then B will be resumed. Then B is over, then A will be resumed. So until this is over, the values of A and B, I should not lose them. Agree? Will it make sense? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So when I have nested macros of this category, so A depends on B, B depends on C, and until C is over, B cannot be completed. Until B is over, A cannot be completed. Until all these three over, I cannot say my actual macro execution is complete. If that is the case, how do I design now? So when A is invoked, its parameters says 10 and 20 should be there in the argument table. In addition to that, when B is called being a nested macro, 30 and 40, let us say that 30, 40 also should be there. Then when C is called with 50 and 60, let us say that 50, 60 also should be there. If that is the case, how do you design the argument table? Which data structure you would like to use to design this type of nested macro dealing as far as the argument table is concerned? So the question is now, what is the data structure that you suggest to be used as an argument table while dealing with the nested macros? So think on that. I really want some answers from this for this. Otherwise, there is no point in discussing further algorithm, because unless you understand what is this algorithm, you will not be able to understand. So let me know the answers or solution for this. Okay. Meanwhile, let me continue the attendance. Pavitra?
Present, sir. Present, sir.
Maithili? Priyanka?
Present, sir.
Pavan Kumar?
Present, sir.
Akash? Rajeshwari?
Present, sir.
Rakesh?
Present, sir.
Ramya?
Present, sir.
Rashmi?
Present, sir.
Ravishankar?
Yes, sir.
Rizwan? Vishal?
Present, sir.
Savita?
Yes, sir.
Shruti? Sneha? Spurti?
Present, sir.
Srinidhi?
Present, sir.
Srinivas?
Present, sir.
Sunil? Vaishnavi?
Present, sir.
Vinny?
Present, sir.
Yes. Let me have some answers.
Sir, BY24 Kishore present, sir.
Kishore? Okay. So how do you design argument table to handle nested macros? What type of data structure you want to use as argument table? Some answers I want. Have got the question or not?
So can you repeat once again?
See, now I want to implement argument table to handle nested macros. Hope you know what is the discussion behind nested macros. A macro internally calls another macro. So unless the very internal macro is completed its execution, I cannot go back to the previous macro call. So if that is the case, the actual parameters that I am loading into argument table, I cannot lose, or I should not lose. So until all the internal macro executions are over, I should retain the previous level or top level macro values. If that is the case, your normal argument table, which is designed to replace the existing actual parameters, is not sufficient, will not serve the purpose. So what is the data structure we should be using to implement argument table so that it can handle nested macros? So revisit your data structures, what you have studied. Suggest which data structure will handle this.
Sir, we may use linked list if possible.
Okay. How? For nested macros. Yes, nothing wrong. You can go ahead. See, as a designer, you should think simply not because data structure alone. You should think its pros and cons, and you should also look at the better data structure if you can find. Because as a designer, you are responsible to execute the program in less time and use less memory wherever possible. And overhead should be very, very less. Just because you have so much of concept available, you can't use very high end, because you may defeat the purpose of efficiency. So you should design various things before you conclude, yes, let me go with this. So this is what normally checked when you go for interviews as well. If you simply give an answer, it is not going to serve the purpose. Hello, madam. Hello. Hello. ಹೌದು ಹಾಂ ಕ್ಲಾಸಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ ಮೇಡಮ್. ಹಾಂ ಹೌದು 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 ಹಾಂ ಹೌದು. So you should suggest the best efficient one for the given problem. Okay, one is linked list. It is also a solution, but you can suggest even better solution for this. What is the best or better solution? No answers. That is the quality of your data structures. Then something wrong with you people. If you don't want to answer, it's fine. I have no questions. But I'm not asking anything great. I'm just asking very, very common sense question, which you have studied already. To implement a nested macro call, what type of data structure is required? And I also given a hint of recursion.
Sir, QRQ.
QRQ. What is that QRQ?
Yes.
Q or QRQ?
OR, sir.
OR. What is OR? What type of data structure is OR?
Stack or queue, sir?
Stack or queue are the same. Stack and queue are same. Stack has its own applications, queue has its own applications. You can't use interchangeable, you know. Stack in the place of queue, queue in the place of stack.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, which one to use? See, data structures are the heart of IT. And if you people find it so difficult, then we have to devote some time on data structures. Without data structures, there is no efficiency in the program. And when you aspire to become a good engineer, if you don't show your prowess with data structures, the person on the other side will not appreciate you. So which data structure? Because unless you know this, I cannot jump to algorithm, because algorithm is based on the answer what you give now.
Stack only, sir.
Stack, how? Should give justification. How? Why? So you said linked list, you're telling stack. So which is the best one?
Sir, like first in, last out.
Okay. Is it better than linked list?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In what terms? How do you say it is better than linked list?
Like it reduces overhead, sir.
Overhead.
So
How?
we can see that.
How do you say reducing overhead? Even I can implement stack using queue, no?
Yes, sir. But
So yeah. So queue is also data structure, linked list is also data structure, stack is also data structure, and I can implement stack using linked list. So you should justify why it is stack, if not queue or if not linked list. Just because it is last in, first out? Anybody else? So all these three are targets. Stack is also a target data structure. Queue is also a target data structure. Linked list also a target data structure, because I can implement each one using the other one. So out of these three, which is the final one? Which is the best one? Okay. Anyhow, see, you should look at the requirement. What is the requirement here? I'm going to call A first time, then A internally calls B, then B internally calls C. But when I want to complete this entire execution, I should complete C first, then I should complete B first, then I complete A first. So the last in, first out is type of concept what we are going to use, which is going to be implemented by stack. But stack can be implemented using linked list, or stack can be implemented using queue as well. But when the nature of the problem is directly can be dealt by a stack, then probably we should look at the stack as the basic data structure that can be used to implement this particular requirement. So nested macros are better implemented using stack as a data structure as far as the argument table is concerned. So that is the solution what we have to keep in mind now. So that is the idea behind argument table. Otherwise, you will be losing the data. F1 buffer length will be replaced by the new call. If it is a standalone macro invocation, not a problem. But when you are having a nested macros, then problem will be arising with respect to the older or the previous macros or the top level macros, because they will be replaced. If you replace them, then we are losing. I cannot come back from C to B or B to A. Then my macro execution will be incomplete. To avoid that, what to do, or to avoid that misappropriating those values or missing those actual parameters, it is better to implement argument table using the stack, so that the first, let us say A macro, its parameters will be loaded first. They will be pushed onto the stack, then B, then C. Since C is the one which is going to be executed first, that will be popped, later B, later A. So last in first out concept is going to be the best suitable for this type of problem like recursion, and hence stack is the best advised data structure for this. And when it comes to implementation, we can use stack using arrays or stack using linked list or whatever it is. That call we can take later, but right now stack is going to be the basic data structure that will serve the purpose of nested macros. So that is the idea. Okay. Now let us come to the algorithm part. So as I said, algorithm is divided into various modules where each module is responsible to perform some minimum or basic task, and this algorithm is going to contain the nested macros as well. It is going to deal with the nested macros also, and these nested macros are going to be implemented using our algorithm. So there we have some names like a define, expand, and stuff like that. We'll see soon what they are. And as the name says, they are going to relate to the what is the need of these algorithms or what purpose they carry rather. So that is the idea. So if you look at the define is going to make sure that macro definition is processed. When it comes to expand, we have the macro expansion. That expansion will be taken care. And these three data structures like name tab, def tab, arg tab, all these three will be used appropriately in the algorithm. So depending upon the what type of processing they are involved. But what you have to keep in mind is this algorithm is meant for processing even what you call nested macros as well. So let us look at that algorithm now. Okay. Before we go to the algorithm, since nested macros are there, we have introduced a variable by name level. Level is the one which we'll talk about, like we have taken macro A, intern macro B, intern macro C. So level 0, let us say, is for macro A, level 1 for the macro B, level 2 for the macro C. So as and when there is a call for a new macro, the level will be incremented. As and when you encounter amend, that means one level is completed or one macro execution is completed, level will be decremented. So that process we have followed just to make sure that all nested levels have been properly used or processed. Okay. Now, the first algorithm pseudocode. So begin. So initially we have, this is a very small snippet in the beginning where it will talk about what is that main process we are going to do. As we know, there is a macro definition, macro invocation, and macro expansion. The outcome of a macro processor is to expand the macro invocation. So initially we make expansion is there or not. If expansion is not there, we'll say expansion is false, meaning that so far we have not done any expansion to begin with, like our flag variable, flag 0, flag 1, we declare, no? So we are just initialize expanding is false. That means we are not doing any expansion. When you are not doing expansion, what will happen? That means it may be a macro definition or a macro call. So macro definition, meaning you just scan the program. We know it is a 2-pass macro processor. First scan the entire program until you reach the end of the program. So get each line of the program. That program may be a macro definition, maybe a macro call, or any other instruction in the program. And once you get the line, based on the whatever the line we have received, we have to process it. That processing can be either a macro invocation processing or it can be macro expansion processing. So we'll see soon. So that means when you enter into the macro processor with this program, initially expanding is set as false because you will be doing any other thing as well, not only expanding in this case. So until you reach the end of the program, take each line, process that. The processing can be expansion or no expansion. Then to complete the top level program. So this is how it is going to be. Now let us see what happens to the processing line. Okay. So processing the line. So what do you mean by processing the line? So we process line. That means each line we encounter in pass 1, we see whether we have a macro as an assembly directive or a mend as assembly directive or any other thing. So depending upon that, we have to select the data structure. So in pass 1, what we'll do, we'll try to fill the name tab and we also try to fill the definition table. So once that is done, we'll go to the argument table when there is a call for the macro. So we'll search the name table in the processing. When I get to each line, I will check what is the opcode. If that opcode is found where in the name table, what is there in the opcode line? What is there we have to store in the name tab? Name tab, we are going to store the names of the macro. So how the names of the macro are defined? If you look at the program, names of the macro are in the opcode region. So name of the macro is there at the opcode. If you look at the characteristics of our program, the third column is going to be opcode. That opcode is what we are going to have a name of the macro here. So name of the macro is existing in the opcode place. So that's what we are telling. Search for that particular name tab if the name is already existing, just to make sure that there is no duplication. If it is found, that is, you have found that particular opcode in the name tab. So it is there. That means the name is available. And here we will be using name tab for 2 purposes. One, to store the data initially, also for the expanding. Okay. If it is already there, then we have to expand it. That means you are calling that name second time. First time it will be for the definition, second time for the call. When it is already there means the definition is already taken care. Only next time when you call, it is going to be expand. Second case. Okay, first time you are entering, then you have to check whether macro opcode is equal to macro or not. If it is a macro, then we have to define. So enter into the definition table. If opcode is going to contain the name of the macro, it is nothing but it is going to be macro call, else it is going to be something else. If that is something else, we have to see whether opcode is having a macro where the name will be somewhere else. Let us look at the program. So if you look at the program, so name of the macro will be here in the label column. So in the label column, we have a name, but a macro is opcode. If opcode is macro, it is nothing but the definition of a macro. So if that is the case, we have to expand or we have to work with the definition table, that is defined. So if it is found, it is invocation and hence we go for expanding. If it is not, if opcode is macro, then we have to define. Else it is not call, it is not a definition, then it becomes an error. So we'll close this. So we have taken the line and we are looking at the how to process this line. So I will close with this today because we have 3 more algorithms like this. Too much might not be able to, you may not be able to understand, but keep this in mind. So we have started with the overall idea behind the macro processor algorithm. Initially, we have made expanding as a false. Then we have got each line we are trying to process. So So we are trying to process now. First line we have processed. If it is a macro call, we have treated them as expansion. If it is not a macro call, then it should be macro definition. We have stored them into the name table through the define process. So this will continue further in the next class. Okay. So with this, I'll wind up for the day.
Sir?
Yes, please.
Sir, Shruti present, sir.
1 second.